Well, I'm really excited to have you guys on today to workshop sleep. It is a major problem in this country. I think 1 in 6 Americans have sleep problems. And I think both of you know that the sleep problems can lead to chronic fight or flight, which then becomes this cascade of autoimmune disorders and chronic inflammation. And so many people are just in chronic pain. And if we can get people to sleep better, then their lives will change. So for me, I really had a problem with sleep for 40 years. I believe it led to chronic depression and 5 years of daily anxiety and panic attacks that were so bad that I wound up in the hospital several times. I thought I was having a heart attack, and it was, obviously that's not a good way to live. And I believe it was the precursor to my autoimmune disorders that I developed because I lead a very clean and healthy life. I eat clean, I exercise, I meditate. I was doing all these things and I still got autoimmune. The thing that was an ongoing problem for me was poor sleep. So we're going to start off by, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can tell me, or just put it in the chat, or just write it down for yourself. So the first question I have is, when did this begin? When did the sleep problems begin for you? As far as I can remember. So as you know, when you were a child, on and off since 20s. Yep. Okay. So for me, I started having sleep problems when I was around 13 or 14. I remember my mother giving me Valium as a kid to help me sleep because I was just irritable. I was just chronically just walking around in a daze. So, yeah, so that's important to think about that because there could be a hormonal connection. So my next question is do you like have difficulty falling asleep, or do you fall asleep okay and then wake up and then have difficulty getting back to sleep? All of them. Okay. All right. So difficulty falling asleep mostly. So that leads me to my next question is, before you go to bed at night, are you on your device? Are you on your phone? Are you watching TV? I'm sure you're aware that there's this problem with melatonin being blocked, and that could at least account for difficulty falling asleep. So you're on a Kindle, yes, yeah. So I think that part of the issue, even with, so if you're on a Kindle, you're reading, so that's engaging a certain brainwave. Now, do you tend to stay up too late? Like, do you find like if you listen to your body's natural rhythms, maybe you would go to sleep earlier, but there's reasons why you can't? Yeah. And what about, would you, if in an ideal world, would you take a nap in the middle of the afternoon? I know you don't like naps. I could tell you for me, when I was having all these sleep problems, it would be like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I had to take a nap because I just felt like I was going to crash. If I didn't, then I could feel my heart racing. I was really, pushing the adrenaline to keep me going. So do you ever sleep in at least 3-hour increments? Because that's important amount of time, because when you sleep in the 3-hour increments, that hopefully you're getting into a REM sleep. And do you know if you dream every night? And that's another indicator of how deep of a sleep you're getting into. And if you're having crazy dreams, yeah, if you're not remembering your dreams, you're probably not getting into as deep of a sleep as you should be. So that's another indicator that you're just not getting full blown into a deep sleep. Do you find that you wake up because you have to pee at night? Yes. Okay, so that's an indicator that you might have a vitamin or mineral deficiency. Yes. So, um, so waking up to have to pee is usually an indicator of that. And that I actually learned from a colleague. Before my sleep problems were resolved, that was one of the things that really helped me to sleep better. And what about pain? Is pain keeping you up at night? No. Okay, good. Do you find that you have a racing mind? Do you have difficulty turning off the thoughts, during the day or at night? Like when you wake up, do you find that you're having trouble getting back to sleep because you just can't get out of your head? Okay, not anymore, and very much so. So you're going to see how all this ties in a minute. Okay. Do you have a problem with cold hands and feet? Cold hands or feet or both? Do you find that your hands are dry? Some dry, yes, not cold, sometimes dry. So if you're having dry hands or feet, does the skin get cracked? And the reason why this is important is, again, this is an indicator of chronic fight or flight. So when we go into a normal fight or flight situation, our body, will actually, I don't know if you can remember way back when you first got stressed out about something, how your hands would get like really clammy and wet. And what happens is over time, when we have this chronic fight or flight situation, our hands tend to get dry because it's like our body's just in this fight or flight mode all the time. Okay. So sometimes dry for you, and Katya, yes, you have that. So just keep all this information in your head as we go through this. Do you have any GI problems? Do you tend towards constipation? Do you tend to have, occasionally you'll have diarrhea? The bowel issue again is something connected to chronic fight or flight. So, if that is an issue for you, it's important to know that. And then another issue is infertility or reproductive issues is another indicator of chronic fight or flight. Okay, so, do you get severe menstrual cramps? Do you have PMS? These are the kind of issues that we want to look at. And do you have any issues with anxiety or depression? Okay. And then, do you have any kind of memory or brain function issues like processing information? Do you find that's hard? Do you have difficulty focusing on a task, or are you easily distracted? Poor memory all your life. Okay. Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, let's see. If you'd said no, I would say, wait a minute, are you being truthful? Because it's hard in this day and age, no matter what age you are, to not have these problems. We are constantly being distracted by so many things in our life. I mean, you walk out on the street and there's distractions, and we're just in this sensory overload situation, right? So if you had said no, I would have called you out and said, liar. And then do you have any autoimmune problems? And if so, how long have you had them? Not that you know of. Good, good. Um, yep, Hashimoto. So I had Hashimoto's. That was the first autoimmune disorder I had. That came about before I solved my sleep problem. And I was actually living in New Mexico at the time. And for me, I found out about this supplement. Up there, you see that? If you're not sleeping well, it would be shocking to me you wouldn't have autoimmune, right? Because your body's just constantly being stressed. Or when we sleep, that's when our body rejuvenates and heals. So if we're not sleeping, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to heal. It's also when our body detoxifies. So only when we're in a deep sleep. So if we're not getting into that deep sleep, we're not sleeping, 8 hours a night, it's very hard for us to be very healthy. So anyway, back to the Hashimoto's, I was recommended to take this supplement that had iodine and iodide in it, and I think it's called iodoral. And within 3 months, my Hashimoto's went away and never came back. So I thought that that was pretty interesting. Whether it's good for Graves, it's something, we can discuss at another time. But I just, if our thyroid is off, that will also cause this racing in our body, and that racing is going to make it difficult to get to sleep at night. All right, so. So one of the things I'm going to go through the things that I have found that can cause sleep problems. Number one is EMF. So we all have routers in our house. And one of the things that I found, again, I didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle, but I found that if my router was on at night, I had a more difficult time sleeping. And if I was staying at a hotel, forget it. I just, knew I was not going to be able to sleep because not only did I have the router in my room, but all the other EMF bombardment I was getting from the other rooms. So we always turn off all of our devices at night. And I have a Faraday cage now for my router, which is supposed to limit the amount of EMF coming out of that. But if you live in a place that's close to a 5G tower or cell phone tower, that might be an issue for you as well. And smart meters put out a lot of EMF. There are people that have Faraday cages for their smart meter into their home. And I know people that have fought with the local electric company to have the smart meter removed. I think they had to pay like $1,200. Because they knew that the EMF was a big problem for them. As far as EMF goes, like I have a shungite sticker on my phone that's supposed to reduce EMF. I have my phone with me all the time. So, I want to do what I can to minimize the EMF from that. Fortunately, we do not live near 5G tower or any cell phone tower. We're very lucky. In fact, we have a very hard time getting a cell phone signal, which is a blessing and, it's a pain in the butt at the same time. So melatonin, so meds, are you on any medication? And if you are, have you gone online and looked at side effects? There are things like beta blockers that cause insomnia. There's a lot of medications, if you read the insert, cause insomnia. So, check that out as well. And I actually believe that there are some supplements that can cause, insomnia. Now, we all know that things like, so warfarin, yeah. So you may want to look into that. There might be another product that you can take. Like for Synthroid, there are whole food supplements that you can take that I think work really, really well. But the problem with, these supplements is they're not really correcting anything. And if you think about it, the nervous system controls everything. It controls every aspect of our body. If you're in chronic fight or flight, you're going to have thyroid issues. You're going to have, blood issues, circulatory issues. So if you can get your body to not be in fight or flight all the time, this is going to make a huge difference for you. Melatonin deficiency. So as I said, so that's actually one of the things I do. I'll go over this at the end. I have specific list of things that I do. I don't do them all the time, but if I'm having trouble sleeping, which rarely happens anymore, I'll just do them in the middle of the night. Some of the things I take all the time, but this isn't about me because your needs are going to be different than mine, but some of them may overlap. So that's why I like doing this workshop, because it's really about understanding what your needs are versus mine. Okay. So the other things that can cause, difficulty sleeping, I'm sure you're aware of caffeine. So one of my vices is chocolate, and chocolate has a lot of caffeine in it. I do drink a half a cup of coffee in the morning, but if I drink coffee in the afternoon, forget it. That is going to be a huge problem. And I'm looking outside. There is, I don't know, I think it's an owl. And it's like right on the tree branch, right? I just got like, I'm sorry, I've never seen this all the times I've sat here before. All right, okay, let me get back to this. So stimulants, sugar is a huge one. So if you're eating sweets in the afternoon, MSG, if you're eating any kind of processed foods, you have to consider that there are chemicals in there that could be a problem. And I'm even talking about gluten-free, right? When we decided to go gluten-free, I'm like, oh, I don't want to deprive myself. I found a couple of products where I could make brownies and, these other foods, and they're filled with sugar. Like there's so much sugar in them. And then for me, like sugar is a problem. I can't do sugar. And, I also have a, family history of diabetes, so I want to be careful about that as well. So, if you could just comment, like, do you think that there are chemicals or stimulants in your life that could be affecting your sleep? Like, are you drinking too much caffeine? Do you love chocolate? Are you eating foods that have chemicals in them, like MSG? And the packaging would probably say natural flavors. So, you have to, when they say natural flavors, you got to be very careful because it's probably MSG. That's how they hide it. And MSG we know is a neurotoxin and a neurostimulant. Okay, not affected by coffee. Good. All right. Another thing that I had alluded to before is that vitamin and mineral deficiencies can cause sleep problems. And I think right now we live in a time where we're just all living in so much stress that more than likely you have vitamin deficiencies. Even if you were like living on a farm and eating things directly from the farm and you were taking supplements, I think people need more than they did 10 years ago, and certainly more than they did 3 years ago before COVID, because we are just inundated with stress. And it doesn't matter what side of the issue you're on, everybody's stressed out about it. And I believe we definitely need more support from a nutritional level. And, it's now coming out, a lot of people are now understanding the fact that industrial farming, even if it's organic, is not the best option. You want to get food, if you can, from a regenerative farmer, because the way they rotate the crops and their animals will put the proper nutrients back in the soil. If you're just buying organic, you still may not be getting the vitamins and minerals you need in your produce that you're eating. So regenerative farming is definitely the way. And Adrian Grenier talks about this. If you look up him, he's got a whole farm. Joel Salatin, Zach Bush is really out there talking about regenerative farming. And I suggest if you want to learn more to look up Zach Bush. He's amazing, amazing. He's a medical doctor and he has totally gone down the path of we are what we eat, and you can reverse pretty much any health problem just by eating the right food. And he's a very spiritual person, so he's kind of interesting in the way he talks about other things we have in our life to help ground us and, connecting with the soil. So I'm a big fan of his. So we talked about vitamin mineral deficiencies. The B vitamins, you can start taking B vitamins today at, double what you're taking. I have a product I really love. And, the nice thing about water soluble vitamins is you can't take too much. You will pee out anything that you don't need. And then vitamin D, 3K2, is usually associated with getting up and having to pee during the night. So I'm not a big fan of just blatantly giving vitamin D3 because it is a fat soluble vitamin and you want to make sure that you don't have an excess, because that can be a problem, though it's, in this day and age, it's unusual to have an excess. But getting out in the sun will not be a problem. You can get out in the sun. It is the best way to get vitamin D. So again, that is, if you're getting up and peeing a lot during the night, it's probably a vitamin D deficiency. Adrenal fatigue is going to put you in this constant fight or flight. And anyone that's got autoimmune issues probably has adrenal fatigue. So your body's just constantly pushing out the adrenaline, and that, like, I don't know if you ever notice when you're trying to sleep at night, maybe your heart's racing. So that's a good way to check that is by, I have a test I'm going to recommend to see where you stand with all these levels, and then we can treat it, right? And I treat things with whole food supplements. I am not a medical doctor, so I can't use any kind of prescription. And I prefer that because I don't want to give you something that could create another problem for you, right? Hormonal imbalance is a big one for me. That when I first figured out I had a hormonal imbalance, I was in my early 40s. And if I look back at my history, now that I can be objective, I realized I had a hormonal imbalance since I started getting my period because, I clearly had issues relating to severe menstrual cramps, irregular period, severe, mood swings. All these things were an issue for me. And so I really, had I known this when I was 13, I think if I had just supplemented with progesterone cream back then, it would have solved a lot of problems for me. But I didn't learn about that till my 40s. All right, so to check vitamin mineral deficiencies, adrenal fatigue, and hormonal imbalance, I love the Dutch test because it's one test and it will look at all those things. So it's a dried urine test. That's the DUT part of the Dutch. And you do it over a period of a day, unless you need to do hormonal mapping, then you would do it for a period of 28 days. And what I love about this test is it's, people in the functional medicine world will tell you it's one of the most exact tests. The problem with blood tests is they're a snapshot in time, where this is checking your this information during the course of the day. And it's really right on. I use it a lot in my practice. And if it's something that you're interested in, let me know, send me an email or message me in the chat, and I'm happy to get more information to you about that. So again, the Dutch test is great for looking at all these major issues for people. So, so my recommendations are make sure you stay well hydrated during the day. So drink, they say you should drink about half of your body weight in ounces. So I also can't urge you enough how important it is to drink clean water. needs to be filtered. You don't want fluoride going into your body or any other things you get from the tap. So spring water is great. We have a reverse osmosis system in our whole house, but on the tap that we used to drink, we actually have an alkalizer. So we're putting the minerals back into the water. That's the problem with reverse osmosis. It's taking all those minerals out. It's clean. You're not going to get fluoride, but you're also not going to get the necessary minerals that you need. So again, start with drinking water. And the other thing I love about drinking water is if you drink that much water every day, it's going to help you detox naturally. So if you're detoxing, then you're going to be less inflamed. And that, we don't know, your brain could be inflamed. That could be the thing that's keeping you up at night. So drink more water, take time for restoration. What I mean by that is there's some great poses that you can do, like legs up the wall is actually great for your adrenals. You put a blanket under your tush, you bring your legs up, and that is a really, really great restorative pose. And then there's child's pose where you put like a bolster under you and you lie, you get on all fours and you just relax that way. I realize we all have a lot of things in our life, but if you don't take care of yourself at some point, your health is just going to deteriorate more and more. And I've learned that the hard way. So these are, the legs up the wall is a really great one. Do it for like 10 minutes. Put some soothing, calming music on, and that will really help. Deep belly breathing. So again, that's another great thing you can do to help your body restore, get out of fight or flight. It takes some practice. And what I suggest to learn how to do this is you lie on your back, you put a heavy book on your belly. When you breathe in, you push the book towards the ceiling, you hold it, and then you breathe out slowly, think about pushing your belly down towards your spine. So optimally, you should be able to do 4 to 6 seconds breathing in, hold it for 4 to 6 seconds, and you should be able to double that time breathing out. If you've been having fight or flight issues for a long time, you may only be able to do 2 seconds, but if you practice this for 3 to 5 minutes a day within 2 weeks, you're going to feel extremely different. So that's one thing that I really love to do. Another thing is I do tension tamer tea at bedtime. Or if I wake up in the middle of the night, I can't get back to sleep, I do some tea. I just try to, sit quietly. Maybe I'll put the TV on, watch something funny for an hour, go back to bed. It's doing great. Another thing I really love to recommend is an app that will actually raise the brain waves that are getting in the way of you getting into a deep sleep. So we have beta brain waves. Those are the brain waves that are active when you're in fight or flight. Your brain is trying to figure out how to get out of this stressful situation. It's trying to navigate. It's in survival mode. And what happens is once we figure out what the problem is and we solve it, our brain should get out of fight or flight. But if we've been in fight or flight for a long time, it tends to get stuck there. So we've got the beta brainwaves and we have the alpha brainwaves. The alpha brainwaves are the calm and meditative brainwaves. Theta is a light sleep brainwave. That's also our creative brainwave. And then we have deep delta. If you're not getting into a theta state, you're probably not getting into deep delta. So really want to make sure you do that. So there are apps like Calm, but the problem with a lot of these generic apps is they're just raising alpha. And the problem with that is you can go from being in beta and just always thinking and, just trying to figure out solutions to being in a place where you're just so relaxed, you don't get anything done. You don't want to go from one extreme to the other because that will just create too much of a problem. So what I recommend, I use the BrainTap app because with each track, it puts your brain through all the brainwave states you're supposed to go through during the course of the day. So it's actually retraining your brainwave entrainment rather than just giving it one brainwave state. And prior to learning about this, I had bought these, back in the day when we had CDs, and actually used them. I had purchased these CDs, the alpha, the beta, the theta, and the delta, and I used them and I didn't feel a difference, unlike using this app. This app is actually the thing that worked for me. In 2012, I started using it. Within 4 weeks, I was sleeping in 4-hour increments, which I had never done or remember doing my entire life. And within 6 weeks, I started sleeping through the night. So if you want to, learn more about it, go to stressfreepa.com. And that is my link. I'm a partner with BrainTap since 2012. I've used it extensively in my practice. I use it myself. And, I find that if you were to use this every day, the tracks are 20 minutes long. If you use it every day for 20 minutes, I will pretty much guarantee at the end of 2 weeks, your sleep will be changed. Now, you can get it with the headset, which is very expensive. I will tell you that. But try just the app. People that use just the app get very good results. Use it with a really great set of earbuds or headphones. The headset, the difference between the headset is they have these flickering lights, which raise theta. But what I suggest is trying it that way, and I can actually offer a discount if somebody wanted to buy the headset too. So, again, it's called BrainTap is the company, but if you go to stressfreepa.com, I think they're now offering a 7-day trial. They have a brand new app they just released. Just a couple days ago. So take a good B vitamin, magnesium, read labels, read all the labels. And what I'm going to suggest is go online, because reading the labels alone is not going to be enough. You really need to, they're not going to list insomnia as a potential problem. And the other thing is that you can try all these supplements. So I had figured out these supplements were important, but my sleep didn't really change until I started doing the app. And it was because I had been in fight or flight for so long that had I been doing all these things years ago, it probably would have been enough. But my brain was so stuck in being in beta. I had these constant ruminating thoughts. I had difficulty with memory, processing information. Focus was a nightmare for me. I definitely had ADD. And when I started doing this, my anxiety, by the way, went away within 2 weeks. I've not had an anxiety attack in all this time since 2012. And I was getting them daily. I was getting daily panic attacks. They are gone. So anyway, I love the app. The other things I do are I do greens first. I don't take a regular supplement. This is what I do because it's all whole foods, it's organic, and they just have a lot of great ingredients also that help with detoxification, like milk thistle. There's aloe leaf powder, lots of anti-inflammatory ingredients, turmeric. I can send you information on this if you like. I've been using this for 15 years. I've tried other products and I keep coming back to it because it has a minty flavor, so it tastes good. I've tried those green drinks that have no flavor, that is just yuck, and I just can't do it. So I keep coming back to that. I do progesterone cream. I can go months without using it, but if I start to feel like I'm having a problem sleeping again, I don't suggest doing this unless you've done the Dutch test, but this is what's really been a key player for me. When I can't get out in the sun, and again, I don't do this all the time, I do D3K2. I know that I have a severe vitamin D deficiency based on that Dutch test. And I also supplement with this magnesium. I like this company because they have a lot of great products that are liquid. I prefer to do liquid whenever I can because it's more absorbable. I have a history of gut issues. My gut issues have been resolved, but it's just something that I feel very strongly about. Um, and yeah, and that's it. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and then if you have any questions, we'll talk about that. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing what kind of feedback you have to give me.